The Nightly Business Report.
Good evening. Tonight, proposed US tariff pose serious threat to Sri Lanka's tea and rubber export sectors, warns Planters Association. Sri Lanka's tourism growth slows in July as industry banks on visa-free entry to regain momentum. ASPI and S&P SL20 record modest gains amid cautions investor optimism in Colombo stock market. And US-China trade truce likely to be extended, paving way for potential Trump-Xi meeting and easing global market tensions.
From Studio 24C, here's Prashansa Gunawardena.
Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Sri Lanka's Planters Association warns that the proposed Trump tariffs on tea and rubber exports could severely impact the industry, especially as competitors like Vietnam and Indonesia secure better trade terms. The tariffs have already disrupted shipments and orders, prompting calls for temporary relief measures and long-term strategies to protect Sri Lanka's market position.
Sri Lanka's Planters Association has raised concerns over the proposed Trump tariffs, warning they will harm the tea and rubber sectors, especially compared to competitors like Vietnam and Indonesia, who have secured better trade terms. The US previously allowed duty-free imports of Sri Lankan tea, but the new 30% tariff has disrupted shipments and suspended orders, affecting cash flow and exporter confidence. In 2024, the US imported 6.4 million kilos of Ceylon tea, with 65% being value-added products like packaged and flavored tea. Rubber exports to the US, valued at over $330 million, have also seen order suspensions due to the tariffs, raising investor anxiety. The Planters Association is seeking temporary relief, such as duty drawbacks, worker retraining, and marketing support to mitigate the impact. They also stress the importance of market diversification and long-term investment in branding and innovation to maintain competitiveness.
An amendment to the National Minimum Wage of Workers Act was introduced, repealing certain provisions of the 2016 Act regarding minimum wages. From January 1st, 2026, the national minimum monthly wage will be set at 30,000 rupees with a daily wage of 1,200 rupees for all workers. For the period between April 1st and December 31st, 2025, the minimum monthly wage will be 27,000 rupees and the daily wage 1,080 rupees. The amendment includes budgetary relief allowances as part of the minimum wage. The law prohibits any reduction in wages or allowances that would negate the increase from the amendment. The Commissioner General is authorized to direct employers, including those using intermediaries, to ensure the proper implementation of the new wage requirements. This amendment aims to strengthen worker protections and ensure fair compensation across all industries. Sri Lanka's tourism growth slowed sharply in July, with only a 3.5% increase in arrivals compared to last year, prompting industry hopes for a boost from the expanded visa-free scheme. The government has now extended visa-free entry to 47 countries to help revive tourist arrivals and meet the ambitious 2025 target.
Sri Lankan tourism sector experienced a slowdown in July, with arrivals increasing by only 3.5% compared to the same period last year, a sharp decline from previous months' growth. India remains a top source market, followed by the UK, Netherlands, China, and France. Despite the July slowdown, year-to-date arrivals grew by 14.1%, reaching over 1.3 million tourists. To counter the dip, the government expanded the visa-free scheme to 47 countries, including key markets like the UK, Germany, India, and Russia. This move aims to boost tourist arrivals in the coming months and support the country's goal of attracting 3 million tourists in 2025. The tourism sector now faces a challenge of significantly increasing arrivals in the last 5 months to meet this target.
Sri Lanka's export sector showed strong growth in the first half of 2025, with total exports reaching $8.34 billion, a 6.7% increase from 2024. June exports alone rose 8.73% year-on-year to $1.46 billion, reflecting expanding market reach and competitiveness. Merchandise exports grew 6.85% in June, totaling $6.5 billion for the first 6 months. Services exports surged by 9.78% to $1.83 billion, driven by sectors like ICT, construction and financial services. The growth in services highlights Sri Lanka's shift toward a knowledge-based economy. This diversification supports high-value employment and strengthens national export earnings. The strong performance signals effective policy implementation and private sector adaptability in a challenging global environment. Authorities continue to focus on innovation, market expansion, and digital transformation to sustain this export momentum. Let's take a short break now. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Sri Lankan stock market saw modest gains today with both major indices closing higher. The SPI and S&P SL20 posted slight increases reflecting positive investor sentiment. For further insights, we speak with Salama Sanoon from First Capital Holdings.
Thank you, Prashansa. Building on the positive momentum from the previous week, the Colombo stock market maintained optimistic sentiment despite some sideways movement during the trading session. The market closed in the green with the all-share price index gaining 50 points to end at 19,518. Lanka Ashok Leyland attracted notable investor interest following its announcement of expansion into the African market. The materials sector also saw increased activity. Among the top positive contributors to the index were Royal Ceramics, Melster Corp, Hemas Holdings, LB Finance and CT Holdings. Daily turnover reached 6.2 billion rupees, marking a 14% decline compared to the monthly average of 7.1 billion rupees. The capital goods sector led in terms of turnover, accounting for 30%, followed by the banking and diversified financial sectors, which collectively contributed around 33%. The top 3 price gainers for the day were Colombo Ford Company, Royal Ceramics and Ceylon Hospitals PLC, whilst the top 3 price losers were SMB Finance non-voting, Tess Agro non-voting and RCD Surgical. Thank you.
The expectation for the week ahead at the Colombo bourses appear to be mixed, with the positive sentiment being swayed by selling pressures to come. For further insights on how the market performed this week, we speak with Ranjan Ranatunga from First Capital Holdings.
Thank you, Prashansa. For the upcoming week, we expect the Colombo bourse to continue its bullish momentum, supported by corporate earnings, as listed corporate earnings announced their June 25 ended quarter results, while prevailing low interest rates environment is also expected to boost prospects through increased fund shift from other asset classes to equities. On the back of this, we expect equity market participation to remain high, with a good mix between the high net investors as well as retail investors, which we believe will add towards meeting the daily average turnover of 7 billion that we have observed during the past weeks as well. However, a certain level of volatility on the bourse is expected, mainly as investors realize profits and shift between different sectors seeking better prospects. Looking ahead, we at First Capital expect banking sector, dairy sector financials, consumer and construction to publish exceptional results, outperforming other asset classes. Therefore, considering the positive earnings together with the increased participation, we at First Capital believe that the fair value for the SPI lies between 21,000 to 22,000 for 2026. Thank you.
Gold prices held firm in Asian trade today following 3 consecutive days of declines as a new trade deal between the United States and the European Union lifted risk appetite and curbed demand for the safe haven asset. Traders also exercised caution ahead of the Federal Reserve interest rate decision due this week, where the central bank is expected to hold rates unchanged. Spot gold edged up 0.1% to $3,340.25 an ounce, while gold futures also gained 0.1% to $3,396.70 an ounce. Silver futures were largely muted at $38.368 per ounce, while platinum futures jumped 1.6% to $1,445.05 an ounce. Meanwhile, benchmark copper futures on the London Metal Exchange rose 0.4% to $9,790.25 a ton, while US copper futures edged 0.2% lower to $5.77 a pound. Oil prices edged up from three-week lows in Asian trading today after the US and European Union reached a trade agreement that eased tariff concerns and boosted expectations for future energy demand. Brent oil futures expiring in September were up 0.3% at $68.66 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude futures also gained 0.3% to $65.36. The slight rebound came after both benchmarks hit three-week lows on Friday, driven by expectations of increased oil supply from Venezuela. An OPEC Plus committee is set to meet later today to review the oil market ahead of the August 3rd meeting, while production policy for September will be determined. Investors are also watching for developments from the Federal Reserve. The US Central Bank begins its two-day policy meeting tomorrow and is expected to keep interest rates steady. Traders are looking for signals on the possibility of a rate cut later this year. The Sri Lankan rupee has depreciated slightly against the US dollar today. According to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the buying rate of the US dollar has increased from 294 rupees and 04 cents to 298 rupees and 12 cents. A short break now. This is the Nightly Business Report. The CTBUH Colombo Forum 2025 held at BMICH showcased cutting-edge ideas in vertical construction and sustainable urban development.
The CTBUH Sri Lanka hosted the Colombo Forum 2025 at BMICH, focusing on innovation and sustainability in vertical construction. The event gathered top architects, engineers, and industry experts to discuss advancements in high-rise infrastructure and urban development. Keynote speakers included international local leaders who shared insights on opportunities, challenges, and fire safety in tall buildings. Presentations highlighted cutting-edge technologies and materials reshaping modern skylines. The forum emphasized the importance of performance-based safety systems and future-ready urban planning policies. The event concluded with network sessions fostering collaboration for sustainable vertical development in Sri Lanka.
LOLC Finance, the leading non-banking financial institution in Sri Lanka, has introduced the LOLC Super Saver account designed to offer high returns along with convenient access to funds. The account features a tiered interest structure rewarding customers with higher returns as their savings grow. It caters to a diverse customer base including freelancers, daily wage earners, entrepreneurs and high balance savers. This product addresses both short-term reinvestment needs and long-term saving goals such as home construction. Assistant General Manager Terence Kaushalya emphasized that the account is built on insights into modern financial behavior, offering flexibility without compromising on returns. LOLC Finance's continued commitment to providing accessible, impactful financial solutions. Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts has won the prestigious PATA Gold Award 2025 for its innovation Cinnamon Rainforest Restoration Project, recognized under the Best Ecosystem and Wildlife Conservation Initiative.
Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts received the PATA Gold Award 2025 for its Cinnamon Rainforest Restoration Project, recognized for excellence in ecosystems and wildlife conservation. The project began in 2022 and rehabilitated 59 acres of degraded land in Sri Lanka's wet zone into a thriving habitat for endemic and endangered species. This initiative showcases the private sector's role in driving multi-agency partnerships involving the Forest Department and the support of John Keel's Foundation. Scientific guidance is provided by ecologists from Cinnamon Nature Trails. The award highlights Cinnamon's ongoing commitment to sustainability, adding to its previous accolades in environment responsibility. The official recognition will take place at the PATA Travel Mart 2025 in Bangkok, where the project will be showcased.
Windforce PLC and Vidulanka PLC have commissioned the 10-megawatt Surya Shakti solar power project in Vaunathiu, marking a significant step in Sri Lanka's renewable energy development. The project, supported by Energy Minister Engineer Kumar Jaikodi, follows the successful 10-megawatt Solar Universe plant. Built on 27 acres of previously unusable high salinity land, Surya Shakti now generates 19.5 gigawatt hours annually for the national grid. Despite challenges like seasonal flooding and construction delays, the project was completed on time through strong collaboration and local engagement. Equipped with 22,048 photovoltaic modules and 34 string inverters, the plant ensures high performance and minimal transition losses. This marks the fourth Windforce Vidulanka partnership, further advancing Sri Lanka's clean energy goals and robust support from national energy authorities. Shinyo and Lanka Preschool inaugurated its new building today on Kirimandalamawatha Narahenpita with the participation of distinguished local and Japanese dignitaries. The importance of integrating Japan's values of discipline and morality into Sri Lanka's education system was emphasized at this event.
Shinyo and Lanka Preschool, originally established in Sri Lanka in 1986, opened its new building today at Kirimandalamawatha Narayanpita. The ceremonial event was attended by religious leaders, government officials, and representatives from Shinyo and Japan. Venerable Vedaduraya Upalithero highlighted the need to incorporate Japan's emphasis on discipline and moral values into Sri Lanka's education system. He noted that while Sri Lanka has education, it must question whether it truly fosters character. He praised Japan's culture of giving importance to the country and the community over self and its clean, disciplined society. The Thero stressed the importance of instilling cleanliness, values, and skills from preschool level to build a better nation.
Let's take a short commercial break. Global business updates coming on the other side. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Asian stock markets struggled for direction at the start of a busy week, with the Nikkei index slipping ahead of the Bank of Japan's rate decision, while Hong Kong led regional gains amid optimism over the US-EU trade deal. Chinese markets opened higher but pared some gains to trade slightly lower. China's Shanghai Composite Index fell 0.2%, while the Shanghai Shenzhen CSI 300 also ticked down 0.2%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index traded 0.5% higher after jumping over 1% in early trade. Australia's S&P ASX 200 rose 0.3%, while Singapore's Straits Times Index edged 0.2% lower. India's Nifty 50 also ticked lower, while the Philippines' PSEI Composite jumped 1.3%. Japan's Nikkei 225 dropped 1% after recent one-year highs last week. The broader Topics Index fell 0.5%. Top US and Chinese economic officials will resume talks in Stockholm to try to tackle long-standing economic disputes at the center of a trade war between the two nations, aiming to extend a truce by 3 months.
One big deal is done.
We've reached a deal
It's a good deal for everybody, I believe.
But after agreeing to a 15% tariff on EU goods at talks in Scotland, Donald Trump's attention turns back to China. Trade teams from Washington and Beijing are set to resume negotiations in Stockholm on Monday. Few expect any developments on the scale of the European agreement, but it's widely expected that the pair will agree to another 90-day extension for their current truce on tariffs. Trump himself sounded optimistic. An extension of the truce would prevent a new round of tit-for-tat tariffs like that seen earlier in the year. It would also smooth the way for a meeting between Trump and Chinese Premier Xi Jinping. That's expected in late October or early November, and Trump has said he will soon decide whether to make a landmark trip to China. Previous rounds of trade talks between the two sides focused on de-escalating the triple-digit retaliatory tariffs that each had imposed. They have not so far tackled broader economic issues. The US accuses China of flooding the world with cheap goods, while Beijing says Washington is using national security export curbs as a way to stunt its growth. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has already flagged a truce extension and says he wants China to rebalance its economy away from exports to more domestic consumption.
Musk says Tesla has signed a $16.5 billion contract for the supply of semiconductors that should be a big boost for Samsung's loss-making contract chip-making business.
Samsung Electronics shares jumped Monday on news of a big deal to make chips for Tesla. Elon Musk says his EV firm has signed a $16.5 billion contract for the supply of semiconductors. That should be a big boost for Samsung's loss-making contract chip-making business. Shares in the firm were up around 6% by early afternoon following the news. Musk said a new Samsung facility in the US would be dedicated to production of the chips. That could refer to a planned plant in Taylor, Texas, which has faced delays amid the South Korean firm's struggles to win and retain big customers. Musk said the plant was conveniently located near his house, and he would personally inspect it to help accelerate progress. It's all very timely for Samsung, which has dropped behind competitors in the race to supply AI chips. Local rival SK Hynix and Taiwan giant TSMC are both seen to have streaked ahead. That has weighed heavily on Samsung's profits and share price. Analysts say the deal could also be helpful for South Korea, as it battles to clinch a trade deal with the US. The country is seeking partnerships on chips and shipbuilding as part of talks to avert a potential 25% tariff.
That wraps up today's nightly business report. We value your opinion. Share your thoughts and feedback with us through email at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076805793. We will see you again tomorrow with the latest updates in the business globe. Until then, I'm Prashansa Gunawardena. Thank you for watching and have a good night.